Good afternoon, and welcome to the 800 Credit Score Man Show. I am your host, Kevin King. He is I, and I am him, the 800 Credit Score Man himself. And once again, thank each and every one of you for coming in and listening to the 800 Credit Score Man Show. I truly, truly appreciate it. So look, you guys, I'm a couple of minutes late starting today. I always forget something. Especially when it's a totally live show, nothing recorded at all. I always forget a little something, so I forgot something. And so I'm a couple minutes late. I'm going to apologize to you guys right now. So look, thank you so very much for coming in, checking out the 800 Credit Score Man Show. You guys know how much I truly do appreciate it. So look, last week, we talked about some things about you and your credit, and the week before that, we talked about savings and how to help yourself with your credit by saving. So if something does happen, you do have the resources to be able to hopefully withstand that storm for that limited amount of time. So that's what we talked about a couple weeks ago. Last week, I told you guys that I might come back this week, and since I got a lot of questions over the last couple of weeks, and a bunch of questions, like probably almost twice as many that I usually get, I said I would come back and maybe do some of the things that talk about that, some of the questions that came up. And hopefully on today's show, I'll be answering a question that you have, something that fits in the scenario that you might have for you as well. So that's what we're going to do today on the 800 Credit Score Man Show. So you know how I got to start out the show. I got to do a couple of shout outs right quick. So let me do this shout out. I've got to shout out Unetta Bacon. She's a world traveler and a sweet person, just sweet as pie. This is my aunt, you guys. So Aunt Unetta celebrated her birthday last week. So I want to say happy birthday to you, Aunt Unetta. I've got to say happy birthday to Rosie Jackson. She celebrated her birthday earlier this week. So happy birthday to you, Rosie Jackson. And then let me shout out Virgil Harris too. So I want to say happy birthday to you, Virgil, a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. So happy birthday to you, Virgil, as well. All right, so let's jump into the show on today. All right, so here's the first thing. The first thing that came, actually, it wasn't the first question of the week, but it was one of the ones that actually kind of repeated itself, almost in almost the same kind of scenario for the most part. So in this particular question, it comes about like this. So there's an account, and it's a collection account that was promised to be removed by the collection agency. So they said they were going to remove it from the credit report, but it hasn't happened yet. So this is the scenario. So it hasn't happened yet, and it's been a little over 2 months. And, what should the person do since it hasn't been removed and they promised that they would remove it? Well, first thing you should do, since the collection agency said that they would remove it, is to contact the collection agency again. So when you do that, and in each and every time, anytime you contact the collection agency, make sure that you're taking notes, and most likely they're taking notes at the same time. So make sure when you contact them that their notes indicate that they promised to remove the account. Maybe sometimes the person didn't put it in correctly and say that they promised to remove the account. They just kind of updated what was going on, and they just hadn't hit the button as of yet. But since it's been 2 months, and it typically only takes 30 to 45 days to for the credit bureaus to update. Sometimes up to 60 days. That could happen for it to update, and you're just checking on the status. So make sure that they did indicate in the notes that they wanted to do that. Now, why do I say this? This is why I say that you need to make sure that they promise to remove the account. Oftentimes, and you've got to be really careful and listen. If you ever listen to Joe Madison, you've got to listen with a third ear. So here's what you got to do. Oftentimes, a collection agency will do what I affectionately call wordsmithing. So they'll so when I say wordsmithing, when you're asking for removal from your credit report, they will imply that they'll remove it with no intention of actually doing so. So they'll imply it. They won't directly come out and say, no, we won't remove it, but they'll wordsmith you to death and leave some of us thinking that they'll actually remove it from it. So they often say something like, we'll report a zero balance. Or they'll say something like, we will reflect that you no longer owe ABC Collection Company or whatever. or they'll say that the account is satisfied or settled and reflect that on your credit report. Those all sound good. They sound nice. They sound pretty. They didn't say no, we won't remove it from your credit report. They didn't say no that we won't remove it from your from your credit report or anything like that. But it's actually not the same thing. It's not what you asked for, nor is it, more importantly, it's not what you need either. You need them to remove all traces of the collection account from your credit report. So saying that you'll update it, or you'll say that it's zero, or that it's settled, or whatever it is, that's not removing it from your credit report. Some people are really under the misinformation that they think if they pay a collection, then it just comes off your credit report. That's not the case. Paying the collection, it'll stay on your credit report anyway, especially if they don't say they'll remove it and you don't ask for removal. It'll stay on your credit report, which does nothing for your credit score. Looks good. Pat yourself on the back. You paid your debt. You paid your debt off, but it doesn't do anything for your credit score. So you want to make sure that you're doing the best for you and your credit score. So them saying all of those things, all those nice things, they'll remove it and all that, does not mean that it's coming off your credit report. So you want to make sure that you get them to say that, yes, they'll remove it. I don't care if you have to ask them 3, 4, 5, 6 times. You want to make sure that they either say yes or no. Just tell you what they plan to do, and then you'll have a course of action or whatever you want to do after that. But make sure that they say that they'll remove it. They'll remove it from your credit report. So if you have a collection, you paid that collection on your credit report, and you go to look at your credit report again, and it's still sitting there. First thing you want to do, of course, is you want to contact that collection agency, especially if they already said they'll take it out. Now, here's also something that will save you a lot of trouble and heartache. When you contact them, like I mentioned earlier, anytime you contact them, especially, when you're talking to somebody on the phone, get the person that you're speaking with, their name. They usually answer the phone and say, hey, this is Betty, ID number 4578910. You want to get their name. You want to write it down. You want to get their ID number. You want to write that down. How many Bettys could they have there? Maybe they have 7. You want to get their ID number as well. You want to write that down. And you want to write down the time that you're speaking with them and the day. The time and the day that you're speaking with them. If you're using your cell phone, that time is always at the top. Write down the time and the day that you're speaking with them. This is going to save you, or could potentially save you at some point in the future. So they record the conversations, right? So they record their conversations. They always come on and say that this is a recorded line and blah, 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 right? So they're recording the conversation. So since they're doing that, if you have an issue, you can call them and contact them again. Let's say you contact them and you say it hasn't come off my credit report, and you guys agree to remove it from my credit report. And the person on the other end says, no, we did not agree to take it off of your credit report. So then now you say, well, I talked to Betty on March the 2nd at 1:41 in the afternoon, and she said that she would remove it from my credit report. I want you to go back and check the recording. They'll go back and check the recording. Probably not while you're on the phone. They got to get a supervisor and 7 people to sign off on and all that stuff. And they'll go back and check the recording. If she did actually say that, then they'll most likely go ahead and remove it. If she didn't say that and she wordsmithed you to death, they'll absolutely point that out to you, that she wordsmithed you to death and she did not agree for you to for them to take that off your credit report. So it's very important that you keep down that information. Betty's name, Betty's name ID, as well as the time and the date that you call, so then they can go back and take a look at it if you're going to have a problem. Most of the time, hopefully you won't have a problem, but it has occurred before where I've had this happen to a client before, for a place that does not speak to third parties. No matter what kind of information I sent them, they won't speak to me. They'll only speak to my client. And they were told that they would be removed from the credit report, and it didn't come off. When I called on three-way with the client after having a little coaching session, tell them what to say and all those things. Talked to a supervisor. Supervisor said, we never agreed to that, and that wouldn't have happened. So we said, look, go check the date. Go check the date and the time. They did so, called my client back a couple of days later, said, yep, she certainly did. She made a mistake by doing it, but since she said that we will remove it from your credit report, we'll absolutely do that. The person that they were talking to, they claimed was newer and didn't know any better, so, we won out on that one, and it was removed from the credit report, which helped the credit score go up, of course, and that's the whole point and purpose behind all of those things. So make sure that you do those things to safeguard for yourself. So make sure you do that. So now, if you keep getting a runaround though, if you keep getting a runaround from whoever it is, and you keep getting a runaround from them, it's still on your credit report, then you want to go ahead and you want to contact the credit bureau. So since in this particular case it has been a couple of months, hasn't been anything that seems shady at all. They promised to do it. They actually even sent a letter that said we will remove it from your credit report. So since that was the case with this particular individual, then you can actually call the credit bureau. So maybe it just hasn't updated yet. Maybe the credit bureau has received the information, but they haven't updated it to your credit report yet. So you can actually call the credit bureau. You don't have to always send a letter. You can call the credit bureau. Each of the big three, you can call them. So you call the credit bureau and ask them the question, simply to see if there's something on file for that particular item that's supposed to come off your credit report, and maybe it'll be coming up soon. Maybe it'll be coming up off the next one. So just give them a call. Ask them what's going on with that particular deletion that was filed. Of course, have the collection agency name at bare minimum when you give them a call and see if it's been done. Now, let's say you did those things. You call the collection agency. You talk to the collection agency. You're getting a runaround. You call the credit bureau to see what's going on with them. So now, what do? File a dispute. So then you just go ahead. You file a dispute with the credit bureaus, all three of them. You file it. You can do this one online. This isn't something that's you lose any rights if you do it online or anything of that nature. You can go ahead and do this one online. File your dispute online with each of the three credit bureaus. And when you do that, one of the easy click button options for when you file a dispute is simply that the agency agreed to remove the account. So you don't even have to look hard for it. It's going to be one of the first ones when you get on there of the 12 to 15 options that you get to when you file a dispute. It'll be on there and it'll say that the agency or the company agreed to remove that from your credit report. So you make sure that that's what you do. If you've got this particular scenario, this is going to be how you want to handle the scenario. You handle your scenario this way, you get that collection removed off your credit report, and your credit report will be better for it. Your score should probably go up, maybe a little bit, but it always depends. It always depends on how much stuff you got. How much credit do you have? How many collections you may have as well. So say this was just the first collection of 10. Your credit report on your score is probably not going to go up that much, if at all, if it's the first of 10. But say it's one of 2 and you get this one removed, then your credit score should absolutely go up. So govern yourselves accordingly when it comes to that one, all right? All right, so no question of the day today, since I'm just doing questions basically that have come in, and I think I'm only going to have time to get in 3 today. So let's move on to the next one. So this one says, I went to the dealership for a car. I've got good credit, actually excellent credit, but my credit score was lower. And she says, I don't remember which company they use, and company she's referring to, which credit bureau they use, then my FICO score. And yes, I know the difference between FICO and Vantage score. Why was my credit score lower at the dealership? All right. So first of all, I'll get to that later, but don't go to the dealer first when it comes to your financing, especially if you have good or excellent credit. Don't go to the